May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in your sight, Lord, my rock and my whole week. This past week with Vacation Bible School, it is awesome. How many of you have worked at VBS before, anytime in the past? So you know it's awesome, but it can be exhausting, correct? I felt zapped, I really did. And we just did 2 nights, but it was wonderful. But it can be tiring, at least for my personality type. And I remember some of the things that were said, and this kind of stuff comes up every VBS, these pearls of wisdom, these little pearls of truth that come up from the children. It's sometimes the most inopportune times. And one happened, I don't remember if it was night 1 or night 2, but one of the children, I think it was night 2, came in with his mother, and we're at the registration table out here in front of God and everybody. Parents, children, and you know what can come out of the mouth of babes, right? He says at the top of his voice, "You know what? I've never been in a church before except for a funeral." His mother's mortified. I could tell. I could tell. And then when I was doing story time with them, I was talking about the Garden of Gethsemane, and of course the disciples couldn't stay awake, and after a big meal, et cetera, it's late at night, and they fall asleep 3 times. And so I'm asking the kids, to bolster the point, what happens when we eat a big meal sometimes? Like on Thanksgiving, we eat a huge meal. What do we want to do afterwards a lot of times? And one child raises his hand, he goes, I said, what? He goes, pray. Pray. I'm expecting him to say sleep, right? It's all about what the pastor expects to hear. That's right. It's like the age-old joke in Sunday school. If you answer Jesus, you've got a 90% chance of being correct. Well, I hate to admit it, but I do admire advertisers and their ability to sell us products we didn't even know we needed. And some of these advertisers they're geniuses. Some of them truly are geniuses at convincing us that if we just had their product, it would somehow fill a hole in our lives and would bring us complete satisfaction. One of the more famous ads along these lines came out in the early 1970s. Perhaps you remember this. It was an ad for Schlitz beer. The ad implied that Schlitz beer, that's a funny word, Schlitz. Is that a German guy's name, a beer maker's name, or does that word mean something? I don't know. Schlitz. That works, doesn't it? Well, this ad implied that Schlitz beer was the ultimate beer experience. The tagline went like this: you only go around once in life. Go for all the gusto you can. That was the campaign. That was the slogan. Now you probably remember that. What does that even mean? I asked what does that mean? I don't know, but consumers loved it. Everyone knew the Schlitz beer tagline, even those who didn't drink beer. Now there's a term you'll hear advertisers use today, and it refers to a recent phenomenon in our society. It's called FOMO. FOMO, the fear of missing out. The fear of missing out, FOMO. It's the idea that someone, somewhere, is having a better time than we are, living a richer life than we are, attending a better party than we are, taking a better vacation than we are, and that we'd better cram as many experiences into our life as possible so we don't miss out on the good life. After all, you only go around once in life. Now, the origin of FOMO seems to have come from an article written by a young man named Patrick McGinnis, a Harvard Business School student around 2003. Patrick and his buddies were young, they were ambitious, and reasonably well off. And in their early 20s, they experienced the collapse, you remember this, of the dot-com and tech stocks back in 2008, which drastically affected the stock market, big time. They also experienced, of course, 9/11 and the terrorist planes crashing into the Pentagon and crashing into the World Trade Center. These experiences no doubt created a lot of anxiety in these young people and a desire to live life to the fullest because you never knew when it would all fall apart. Patrick started noticing that he and his friends were cramming their social schedules with as many parties, as many events, and as many adventures as possible. But they didn't seem to be enjoying. They didn't seem to be enjoying these experiences. Instead, they always had this just beneath the surface. They had this nagging feeling that somebody, somewhere, was having a better time than they were. Patrick describes it this way. I want to quote him. All you wanted to do was live life to the fullest at every second. You felt the need to do everything all the time because you'd seen your own mortality. And texting and the rise of social media made FOMO even worse. Suddenly, you could let friends know that you were at the coolest new restaurant in town, or you could post pictures of yourself at a much desired vacation spot. And now everybody was inescapable. Everybody felt this instant pressure to do more, to search for some new and amazing experience or adventure that they could impress their friends with. So, consequently, a new issue arose, one that counselors called decision paralysis. Decision paralysis. Suddenly people were so overwhelmed by their options and so driven by the fear of missing out that they literally couldn't make a decision. They couldn't commit to anything because, friends, if they committed to one party or committed to one place or option, then they might miss out on the better options. And as one of Patrick McGinnis's friends says, FOMO's actually an amazing acronym because it captures the essence of life. So, is the fear of missing out, is that really the essence of life? I can see his point. About wanting to live life to the fullest, but is all this anxiety and all this chasing around to find the better options, is that what a full life is all about? I think Jesus is addressing this question directly in our passage for today. But his definition of living life to the fullest is quite different from ours. Two sisters, Mary and Martha, open their home to Jesus. Martha wants to be the good host, so she's rushing around, cleaning, fixing the meal, setting the table, taking care of all the details. Now, let's be clear about this. Let's be clear. Marthas are vitally important in our lives. Some of us, truth be known, some of us would be in deep, deep trouble if we didn't have a Martha to make sure things got done. Still, the hard work and attention to detail of the Marthas of this world can get overlooked, and it often does. One mother was trying to explain the health benefits of a colorful meal to her family. The more colors, the more variety of nutrients, she said. Pointing to the dinner, she asked, "How many different colors do you see?" 6, volunteered the daughter. 7, if you count the burn parts. Now, it's really tough. It's really tough to be a good host, take care of everybody else's needs, especially if no one seems to appreciate your efforts. Martha's sister Mary wants to be a good host too. She wants to be a good host too, but she's got a different way of approaching it. She sits at Jesus' feet and listens to him teach. And when Martha complains to Jesus that her sister isn't lifting a finger, isn't helping, Jesus says, what? Here's what he says. Martha, Martha, you're worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. So Jesus, our Lord, defends Mary's neglect of her hosting duties by saying, please excuse me, Mary. She was with me, Jesus the Messiah. Now, he isn't trying to pile more guilt on Martha's shoulders, but he is trying to teach both sisters, both of them, about the essence of life. Life is short. You only get around once. So don't get lured into using up your energy on what doesn't matter. Only one thing matters. I believe it's the best cure for the fear of missing out that there is taking time to sit at Jesus' feet. Jesus is saying, don't miss out on the opportunity to know God. Now, our society seems to promote backwards priorities. We promote achievement. We promote consumption, to be sure. We promote cultivation of the self over our relationship with God. Yet God is our creator, the way, the truth, the life. So what good is our life if it's not reflecting God's glory and conforming to God's plans? Lewis Grant came up with the perfect term for what happens when we put temporary, selfish ambitions ahead of our love for God and others. He calls it sunset fatigue. Sunset fatigue. For instance, when we come home at the end of a day's work, those who need our love most, those to whom we're most committed, end up what? Getting the leftovers. Sunset fatigue is when we're just too tired, we're just too drained, we're just too preoccupied to love the people to whom we've made the deepest promises. And that includes God. All of Martha's rushing around to serve Jesus friends, it was draining her. She was developing sunset fatigue. If she didn't stop and just enjoy Jesus' presence, then he would end up getting the leftovers of her love and attention. And I think Jesus is also saying, don't miss out on the opportunity to give love and to receive love. After all, this is the true essence of life. A pastor named Stuart Sachs tells of serving a church in Paraguay, and one day, a native Indian man named Raphael came to visit Sachs. And when Sachs asked Raphael what he wanted, Raphael replied in his language, I don't want anything. I just came to be near. Raphael just wanted to sit on Sachs' porch and be near his new friend. He wanted nothing more than to just enjoy his presence. And many of us were raised in a legalistic church. We see worship, truth be known, as a weekly obligation. We show up because it's expected, because we believe it'll make us a better person, because it'll help us get into heaven. But friends, that is the wrong way to approach worship. Worship is about enjoying God's presence. It's about giving and receiving love. It's a world of difference. Did you know that's the purpose of worship? Did you expect love? Expect it when you walked in here today? How sad it would be if you missed out on that opportunity. Finally, Jesus is saying, don't miss out on the joy of living this moment, this very moment, because God made you for joy. Best-selling Christian artist David Crowder had an experience that changed his views on God. He was in high school, and he regularly attended church, and he thought he had God all figured out. However, one particular day, he's feeling down. He wandered around his local mall, then bought a chicken sandwich, and he sat down to eat it. And as he bit into this delicious sandwich, must have been a Chick-fil-A, I would imagine, David suddenly realized, this is taking a bite of a chicken sandwich, guys. It's then that he suddenly realized all good things come from God, every last one of them. And tears filled his eyes as he realized how grateful he was to God. And this happened not in a church, not in a Sunday evening youth group meeting, but right there in the middle of a mall food court. And he described the experience as a moment of unexpected joy. He writes, that's when I realized that every second is an opportunity for us to experience God. There's not a second He's not there and available to us. Every second is an opportunity for us to experience God. God is in this moment. It's God we don't want to miss. So what are you doing at this very moment? Are you daydreaming about last night's game or tomorrow's work? Or are you seizing this very, very present moment to pray, to focus on God, to look for the creator of the universe to speak to you and fill you with his love? You only go around once. Only one thing matters. It's the better. No, make it the best option. It can never, ever be taken away from you. And all God's people said, amen. Let's bow our heads.